So this film is part of a series made at our celebration event in Staffordshire. It tells the story of how we have built our Who Shoes resources to spark crucial conversations to improve care and support for children and families.
So Gill mentioned that she'd already done some work around children and people, and there's also lots of work around perinatal mental health. So we started by raising a purchase order with that bit of COVID money that we'd got left over to buy the existing scenarios, the existing games. The parcel was duly dispatched by Gill, DPS or whomever, and signed for by Gavin. Is Gavin here? Anyone see Gavin? The idea who Gavin is, email everyone on the global called Gavin saying, I don't suppose you took delivery of a box. To this day, don't know who Gavin is, don't know where the box went.
Gavin's playing who's.
Yeah. Is Gavin here? Is Gavin what? Anyway, so do you have to send us another box? But anyway, we got 2 boxes of the perinatal scenarios and the joining up care for children and young people. And that's when I gathered a gaggle of people around me to sort of sift through these cards, I think in a room in the breach, to see what have we got that could make a game. So my memory, that was Angela Payne was involved at the early days, Rachel Crook, Debbie and Zoe.
Now this is starting to stretch.
Yeah, Zoe, Rachel, Deb, where's Deb? Oh God.
Only your skin down.
And Louise Watson, where's Louise? Oh, we haven't rehearsed this, so I have extra school though, just in case.
You risk assess this, Lyse?
No. So we had our first event in April, which was 1,001 days. It's quite taxable, but definitely rich and yes. So Joe and I and Kate Cox and maybe
And I was there.
in Deb.
Yeah, I was there.
So we got the box because we found it, and we were stood outside Beacon International Centre. It was all locked up. It was all in darkness. We were like, "Where's Gill? Where's Anna? But he's even invited." Beacon International Centre was moved. Thank the Lord.
Where we were.
So fortunately, we got there about 30 minutes, didn't we? Not a moment to spare. And like sprang into action and put the bunting up and put the tables out and got our first gang together. And that topic was first 1,001 days of a young person's life. Yeah, well, Amy comes in next. Amy's got a starring role next. So I think Amy is our perinatal peer support worker, and as I mentioned, there was some scenarios around perinatal. So Amy, I remember dropping the games when you were at Faraday Road. Yeah. And you were using it as sunshine, so you've had to, yeah. So Amy picked up the baton next, or the thread, as how was School Students?
Fab, yeah. I was saying to Tori that from that event we actually built quite a few more positive working relationships with health visitors and different Jews that we work with in HQ. So it was a really successful day.
Which is good to hear, and that was building very much on the third project we've done with NHS England, the third Big Who Shoes project. Perinatal mental health had been running through everything we were doing in maternity, and we've had the chance against raising partners to develop some bespoke material, really well researched, and to have that kind of ready for you to try out was important.
So we've got perinatal Who Shoes, and we've got the CYPB first, but the scenarios, as Jill mentioned earlier, a lot of them said when I was in hospital, and I remember we sit in the bridge going, if only that didn't say hospital, if only that said something else. So I made a bit of a case to Claire, and also maybe Claire needs to take the thread there.
Well, I think she does.
Yeah, to say, could we use a bit of money that we've got, not it's after COVID, that the NHS doesn't have any money knocking around anymore, I don't tell you, but just after COVID, we had a little bit of left, and it was a case of, could we use a little bit of money that we've got and a bit of the trail budget and things that haven't really been spent during COVID to develop some more cars so that it didn't say hospital when I was having my catastrophe and it was more residential facilities that we were delivering. So I remember did a little business case by GNT and it got approved. And I've got some ideas about topics that could be useful, but didn't want to kind of say to people, this is what you've got to do when we're going to do this. I think, Zoe, you told a story about when that hasn't worked in terms of that other gate, and also that the bad experiences that people have had, I didn't want to repeat that by saying, this is something we're all going to do, and whether you like it or not. So I was thinking about what could be an entry-level drug, but SEND, special needs and disabilities, had always been a candidate topic, and I've been discussing that with Gill, and Gill, you felt was someone very important that needed to be part of that.
Okay, so I'm going to just bring in a little twist into the wall before we go to this very special person. So at this point, and we won't do it for health and safety reasons, but we could wrap Colin up in the whole string and a bit more, because there was a 170-page contract to negotiate. So thanks for that, MPFT.
So any procurement here, because we could throw them a ball of applaud.
It is a record, and we have force majeure was like the least of our problems. There was a lot going on. So we won't wrap Colin up in spring, we'll pass it on to, now we've got a very special guest here who has been absolutely key to the whole project. When the core work, the contract came on board, and Yvonne and I had always looked to work together in some way, and I wanted to bring Yvonne in right from the beginning as a formal part of our project. And I know if Yvonne's not well, and I'd said you can be as big or as small a part of the project. You don't have to feel you need to come to team meetings. You don't need to feel you have to come all the way from Surrey to Staffordshire. Here she is today and must be at all the difficult owners. So pass it round the floor. So, Bob.
Thank you. I'll tell you, I'm so sad today is the last day.
Not the last day.
Promise. Because, okay, I think so. I've met some amazingly fantastic years. I love this area. I love you guys. We had so much fun. And up until, as Jill hinted at, my health is declining. I'm still here, still doing well. I started all this work back in 2012, when at that point they told me that my cancer spread, and at that point I was told that I needed a few months to live. So I thought I'd just do this for a little while. I never thought I'd still be here all these years later. Up until the end of last year, I was co-opted on dozens of different NHS England boards and God knows everything else, and it all got too much. And I sat all of them. I very nicely resigned, but there was one I could not resign from, and that's this one, because I looked forward to these meetings so much. We join that call every few weeks, and the energy, the passion, the love, I'm just looking around at how they are touring. Jim, hello, I didn't see you till then. I didn't see Rachel. I've just loved every single second. So thank you, Jill, and thank you, Lyse, for giving me such an amazing opportunity. I've loved it.
So this is all that was here. So Yvonne came on board, and I wanted an entry-level drug because the perinatal stuff was great and the 1,001 day stuff was great, but it was hard to invite anyone that wasn't in that sort of services that looked after those young people, and I wanted as many people as possible to experience issues and then see where the energy took us. So my entry-level drug, as it were, was joining up care for children and young people. How we join up care for children and young people is an absolute pillar of our strategy. And what our care group's all about as we played together was what was a community mental health provider and a community children's provider and those wider partners that we work with. So it felt like a really good topic to be able to A, invite everybody, because no one can say, well, that's not my job, or I'm not involved, and B, just to get as many people possible to experience Whose Shoes. So we had our first workshop on the 24th of May, the first one of the series. We developed scenarios, actually. We haven't talked about that. We developed scenarios, we crowdsourced scenarios. Rachel and I did a podcast with Gill.
It feels long, but this is the very high level highlights of the story. I mean, behind the scenes, we've got Padlets, we're crowdsourcing scenarios, we're getting people with lived experience, the children, the parents, healthcare professionals, people in all the different roles and AHPs and so on within MPFT, all able to say, well, I think this should be included, this should be included. And that has grown throughout the project. So I think it's got stronger as it's gone along, but it was starting here, wasn't it?
And then joining of care, children and people, so we invited anyone that would come, really. And I found myself sat next to the marvellous Ailey Duddy, completely by accident, who loved it, got it, loved it, and said to me, we've been thinking about, I work with children, looked after children with care, and this would be great, and we'd love to do some scenarios and looked after children. I was like, it's funny you should mention that, Amy. We have also been thinking that that could be a good topic. So Amy, you picked up the thread there.
Idea.
Yeah, I'm right.
Amy, do not undersell yourself because you've been amazing in this.
Right, and my team. It is, we're a team. We are a team. But it is so right, if you play it, you're addicted.
And it has. The Voice Project and the work that you do in Whose Shoes and beyond Whose Shoes, I've been so impressed. So the Voice Project, an whole team, massive well done.
So that event kind of got more people interested, and I think the mental health services said, we'd like to do some work, and as did Looked After Children. So we then started doing crowdsourcing and generating material for 2 topics simultaneously, which was the Looked After Children care experience and the mental health for children and people. I don't know who was involved in all of that crowdsourcing. We had Sarah did it. Were you here at that point?
She started with me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Me involved, I think, from Lyse. So I think it goes like Saul got the team involved and everything.
Next something.
Yes, and said it would be interesting to go.
There's kind of other people that definitely got involved in the scenario generation for, I think Leanne,
MHST.
Leanne Blake were really key people, the MHST. So Saul, that was your world at the time as well, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. MHSTs did a lot of, well, we tried to connect with Lichfield, the school at Lichfield.
Poems.
Yeah, they did the poems. It was a lot around drumming up some experienced young people that wanted to come and be involved. So we'd got some representation, did mental health well from secondary schools from across the patch, but then participation team had just started to grow at that point, and we'd got a TU. So Sarah and the team totally took hold of that mental health session.
So Tori, Marie, Sharose, Sophie, Edith and Sarah, Jack already had it.
We had Molly here today, but she couldn't make it. One of my young advisors said she had a major sort of play in the mental health flat, so she was great on the spare.
She did. And I have to say, at this point, at this team came on board, my life suddenly got so much easier. This team are absolutely amazing. Like all of the preps today, I'm just like, can you just make it so? And they just make it so, and they turn up in the room, and the magic happens. So I definitely couldn't have done. And I think there's a real tipping point, certainly for me, once these guys came on board. So a big thank you from me. And I think that mental health event, and you mentioned Molly, she was a key part of that event, and she took the game away with her. She was doing some work around transitions, and she and that was where the hot take video was. Kieran is in the room, but Kieran was in the hot take video, Rachel was in the hot take video.
And we're going to let Molly loose with a copy of Whose Shoes. I
can't
But you can't plan this stuff in advance, it's just who comes along and what conversations you have. So thank you for that opportunity.
I've been working for an hour
So Nikki Smirsky is
kids join the thread of that voice. Nikki at there, she is bar now. See what I mean?
I remember just the enthusiasm and just having a commissioner there.
Tears from Molly's speech, which absolutely crippled me.
Yeah.
Don't.
I think it was good to get people with the money around the table talk about how we can make an actual difference in the community. And I just remember it being the first time I met you, Nikki, and we were talking about all things children's mental health, which was really, really good.
Nice. Tori, after that event, developed some PHSE curriculum lessons using Who Shoes, and the project was shortlisted for a National Positive Practice in Mental Health Award and we went down to Southend on the 1st of May to collect it. And most of the people have already got the thread, and Ivan and Tori and Sarah. I think who else was in Gill, obviously, in Southend on a beautiful, felt like summer had arrived that day, it was gorgeous. Gill had that opportunity, you had to introduce a meeting Neil Carl's the first
Did Blake and I know you chat, as you do, just did formally, and he was great. He was really interested in what we were doing, and he said, please come and present to the exec team at MPFT. So we did. So we sowed some seeds. Who knows? I mean, I think this is a big part of play. What seeds were sowed then? Are they growing? Perhaps to take Who Shoes a bit wider in MPMT, because we've done work around adult services. And my background was in social care. A lot of work around dementia care, dementia-friendly communities. So who knows where those seeds might pop up. But Neil Cole was very, very supportive, and we're hoping he's going to pop up today.
Yeah, you might come in at the right time to rub the ball of wood and think, what on earth is going on here? So, yeah, and I know my other memory of Southend, do you remember the bar lady?
Yes.
We'd chatted, she was like, can I just ask, what do you all do? And it turns out she's got her own amazing story that I think probably weave its way somewhere into it in Shiss and
We've got, do you want to tell us it? Do you remember the lady behind the bar at Southend?
Oh my goodness, yes. Now, I had quite a few gin tonics basically. So I was trying to... Basically, I mean, it was a wonderful evening. You were all dressed in old leather excellent. It was just a really joyous, happy evening. And I went over to the bar, and while I'm waiting for drinks to read down, I was just chatting casually to somebody else who was asking, you know, not related to our team at all, but was just sort of, you know, we were just discussing why we were each there, what project we're on and all of that. And the girl who was serving us leaned across and said, I grew up in care. I'm a care leader. And just started telling me the stuff. I mean, my jaw by this point was on the floor. The things she was talking about were so poignant, so harrowing, so moving, so amazing. And she was utterly lovely. So I was like, oh, it's good to charging over. Jill, you've got to come and see this lady. And you and she ended up having a really long chat.
Indeed. And only Kif was saying to me, how do you source Who Shoes materials? From real conversations with real people, which did include the young woman behind the bar in Southend. And I think the scenario that made it, or something similar, was around how when she was 7, she'd been moved from one place to another, and she got a really special teddy bear, and it got lost. So she got bought another teddy bear, as if that was just fine. But the teddy bear that kind of followed her in her life and was, you know, so significant to her, people need to understand that that's not just a teddy bear, it's a teddy bear. So that's the one that I really remember from that incredible encounter, isn't it?
She was raising, wasn't she?
And she was she was training to be in the NHS, which I can't remember if that's what.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, there's been lots of serendipitous moments, and that just felt like another one that just put the universe, put the right people in the right place to help with this journey. So that takes us really back to our looked after children. So we were doing those 2 topics generating, and I think mental health came out in the blocks. I think mental health got to the finish line early because it was Children's Mental Health Week, so we had to launch it. So care experience was the next one, but we did them in parallel. And that was at the Learning Centre at St George's. And Amy, you brought lots of young people, counsellors. Okay, so Ed needs the thread at this point. Is anyone else at that event that's here that feels like they need to? Jim?
I think it was Hannah's first event. I am Hannah as well.
Yeah, months ago as well.
She's really excited, Lisa, about all
I know. Yeah, I was swinging now. I'm going to unravel this without anyone. I'm going to see good conversation. It seems like a good idea at the time.
And so while you're passing the bull around, I'd just like to say, I kind of feel as if Stephen Russell's here in spirit today, because through, we only can't tell the story, but through Lyse basically, I met with Stephen Russell, who, if you don't know, you should know yet. He grew up in care himself. He's in Staffordshire. He's set up Elements Support. I'm going to his book launch on Friday, and we end up doing a podcast together. And it's one of the most moving experiences I've ever had. It's like an hour of goosebumps talking to him, talking about how he grew up in care and all the things that we could learn, which of course is in the some of may influence the scenarios and indeed poems. So lots of people who aren't here today, 55 restores it.
It was Burley Brand's first week at Staffordshire County Council. She's going to put the coffee break. And again, she was someone that thought she might just walk through the door at the right moment. And I think she saw, Amy had been on board from the beginning, but I think helped get this a bit higher up in Staffordshire County Council's agenda. And there was 2 other people there that have been joined our journey. So Jim and Lindsay were at that event. So Jim and Lindsay. Lindsay and Jim and Lindsay.
So I don't know if either of you want to give
Played by accents as well, wasn't it? You know, and then just heard about this Who Shoot group. We should go to that. We should be involved in that. I'll be fine if that's how it started, isn't it?
Yeah, so Jim and I work together, and we support families who have loved ones at home who have learning disability and mental health problems and present with behaviours of concern, and we support families in making those environments a bit safer, supporting parents with de-escalation, and just making those environments safer in the least restricted way possible, and it's very kind of tailored training. But before I joined the trust, I came across Yvonne Newbold online when I was in a state of absolute crisis with my gorgeous son who has severe learning disability and autism. And prior to joining the trust through special intervention from Jim in my own family, it was you who was my very first stages. So your online resources that are completely rooted in Yvonne's own experience raising her very handsome Toby, gave me camaraderie, guidance in managing some of those challenges at home. As those challenges got more and more challenging, Jim came into my life as a professional to help support with some tailored training at home. That led me to come on board and join the trust and do the same job, going out to other families like my own, supporting them out of crisis the way that Jim supported me out of crisis. And I remember one day I was going through my social media, and I was part of Yvonne's online community, and I just, you know, when you just catch and I caught a hashtag MPFT, and I thought, oh, I know Yvonne's not local, well, why is she mentioning our trust? And it was an advert for the Care Experience event last year, and I said, Jim, I really want to meet this lady. Let's go to this event. Jim, and luckily Jim hadn't got any clinical visits that day, and I was available, and we went along, didn't we? And as soon as we were just blown away by Hugh's shoes. And then when we found out that the next project was SEND, we just had to get involved, didn't we? So we very much kind of, you know, nudged away on and said, can we join this project team, because we really want to get involved, and it's been amazing, hasn't it? Sorry, I'm speaking for last year.
And Bernie, you're about 20 seconds later, like now you checked yourself, and at that event, it was Bernie's first or second week in Staffordshire County Council, and I'd invited you along as part. We linked in on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, it'd be great for your induction, Bernie, you'll meet loads of people, and I think you hot-footed it over from Staffordshire Place at lunchtime because your diary was run, but you've always wanted to make it. So we're really grateful that you made it. And we were saying, Amy, we're telling the story of Hugh's shoes and Keith Hammond works it out and weaving our threads. So Amy had been from the get-go, but I think your involvement then, Burley, really helped push this in to more places as Staffordshire County Council, which I think has been amazing for the partnership, really.
Yeah, and today is my first anniversary of being in Staffordshire, so it's very serendipitous that I'm here today, because I was here in first week at Checked, and it was down to your just a kind of comment on LinkedIn I hope that people in Staffordshire know, and people that have worked in me over the years know, that working with people is really important to me. I've just come from a life story event at the showground, which is we've commissioned from somebody called Richard Rose, which is allowing our carers, kinship carers, foster carers, and our wider teams to make sure that we're able to tell the story of children's lives. And I think that co-production and Whose Shoes is an extension of that. It's about making sure that children and their families have voices in both the special educational needs space, but also then the wider care experience space. And it's only then that we can make a real difference to outcomes and the ambition that we all share for all of our children, whatever their special talents and abilities are. And I think it's important to look at it through that lens rather than through a deficit lens. And I'm just really privileged to be here this morning. It's good to see you again. And I'm grateful to Gill for facilitating and for really putting a stamp on Whose Shoes. And I see that I've started a trend, because people have now kind of have also started to appear with Crocs attached to their lanyards, which I think is a good thing, because for me, this reminds me on a daily basis that children are important. They are the most important driver for me as a mum and as a director of children's services, that children matter and children have to be at the heart of our decision making, our thinking, and our challenge to the wider system, including the government, that the current system, the current legislative system, the current investment, current resources isn't enough, isn't respectful of the needs of our children and families. The system doesn't work, and we are trying to do the best in a really complex system in Staffordshire to make it work better. We know we don't always get it right, but we want to try. So thank you for letting me come today.
And thank you for that. So it was, again, none of this has been rehearsed, and no one knew that they were having to do a little turn. It's like,
Just give me a second. Look, Bernie's been doing that this morning around live story work. So I'd like to reflect back to you and how the work that you're doing in Staffordshire it's been a very iterative process in terms of the different scenarios. What are they? How can they be real? Different poems. And one of the Sen poems is around what I see as the kind of massive responsibility of professionals helping children to write their life stories and not, make sure it's their story and not influenced unduly, or how would it feel for the natural parents reading that story, or just to be aware of all the different perspectives and to help that child tell their story in the way that they want to. So there's connections going on everywhere anyway.
So yeah, as Lindsay mentioned, that launched then our last topic. It had been a candidate topic from the very beginning, so finally Yvonne's time to shine as well. And we spent a long time, or Gill, colleagues, spent a long time crowdsourcing scenarios for the cards that are on the table for interview on some of the tables. Padlets, focus groups.
All social media, just wherever people, I've mentioned before you came in, Bernie, Stephen Russell, the podcast I did with him, just people and their stories basically. But I can say that developing the special educational needs, disability and neurodiversity and alternative provision has been massive to try and make that manageable and hopefully come up with the kind of scenarios and poems that can't possibly cover everything, but hopefully manage to spark the conversations around, because Whose Shoes is designed to take the conversations to where you want them to be. So it's just a conversation starter rather than a prescriptive, you must talk about this and I've missed it out, if that makes sense.
So big period of crowdsourcing and developing the scenarios, and then we had to think about, so how are we going to launch this? So with the others, we'd done a big event and got everyone in a room, and we talked about it a lot, didn't we, as a project team, about how is this, what's the right thing to do, and it just didn't feel right for this topic.
So you got some learning, Lyse, as well, from our care experience with young people actually in the room, and how overwhelming it was for them. The lunch wasn't right for them. They were drawing pictures and taking out Carrie at that event. So they're drawing their own pictures that Carrie could then incorporate into the artwork. So we had that in the back of our minds, that we needed to do something a bit different.
So we decided we were going to do a road show, and each of us as a project team agreed we'd take it to 1 or 2 different places, and you'll hear more about that later, so we won't go into that in detail. And then we decided that today we'd try and bring it all back together. So not only the story of Who Shoes, but the SCND work. So we're going to share that with you after a break. So I guess that's what got us here today. So I don't know if there's anyone else that feels like they should have hold of this thread.
Lisa, because she's got it.
Oh, Lisa, yeah.
Lisa in on the same
Yeah,
one because she runs SEM for our volunteers.
That's the point, Amy. You brought Lisa in once we did that topic, and then you've trained, I think, all of your team and 22 people at Staffordshire County Council to be able to facilitate Who Shoes. So I think there's then the network feels like it's starting to really spread. And I took the Gill up to Stoke, to a community lounge at Stoke. I'm constantly putting it in the chats of meetings, going, could use Who Shoes. Well, how might we could use it? We could use Who Shoes, but I think until you've got Crocs in the hands. So it feels like we've finally hit a tipping point and a bit of momentum, and that's what we were here today really to celebrate. So I guess that's the thread so far, but we invite you all to be part of this story and part of this thread going forward. And I'm just really hoping we don't tie ourselves in too many knots.
And we can rescue ourselves from what we create here, Lyse.